1907, signed into law by Thomas Jefferson at a time when there was no standing army in the United States and state law enforcement was much less robust. The Insurrection Act is a measure of last resort when state governments have essentially collapsed and failed in their mission. And we're nowhere near close to that right now, Greg.
You're also a former federal prosecutor as well, Mr. Secretary. Let's talk for a moment about the investigation into George Floyd's death. We've talked to a number of folks who've indicated that it's very difficult. It's very difficult to win a case against a police officer. What makes it so difficult?
Well, the officer in question has been charged with murder in the third degree under Minnesota law. I can't tell you I'm an expert on Minnesota criminal law, but from the video alone, it seems pretty apparent that this is an individual who, with depravity, looked at Mr. Floyd as an animal, and he's the hunter who literally snuffed out his life. And so some criminal charge is clearly appropriate. Morally, I am equally as appalled with the officers who stood there and witnessed this with their hands at their sides. And I hope that prosecutors are considering what type of charges might be appropriate in their case. I think we should all be equally as appalled by those who stood by and did nothing while this horrible act occurred.
You know, Mr. Secretary, I think a lot of our viewers would probably also be surprised to know that in Minnesota and a number of other states as well, the technique that was used on George Floyd, it's not illegal. Chokeholds are legal in a number of police departments all over this country. Is it time for the federal government to step in and ban chokeholds as a police tactic?
Greg, well, I think it's time for our police departments across this nation to take a hard look at the type of people they're recruiting into their organizations. There is no level of training, in my view, that could eradicate the criminal depravity from the heart of that individual who committed this act. We need to look at whether or not police departments in big cities are recruiting people who are there to protect and serve, or they're recruiting people who want to be the neighborhood bully. And so I think you have to go back to basics in that regard, as well as tactics in receding, in de-escalating a tense situation. Too often police officers become wrapped up in the intensity of the moment and need to be reminded that it's okay to de-escalate if you're dealing with a matter involving a $20 counterfeit bill.
Mr. Secretary, as you know, over the last 10 or 15 years especially, we've seen these kinds of protests in the wake of the death of another unarmed black man who dies in police custody or at the hands of police. But one of the things that's striking to me this time is how long these protests have lasted. We are in our 8th day now. The size of some of these crowds, how widespread these protests have been as well. Protests in literally every state in this country. Something that happened in Minneapolis, triggering protests in Salt Lake City. Do you get the sense that perhaps this is a tipping point that could lead to some sort of dramatic change?
Greg, George Floyd is the latest chapter in a long-running saga. I'm not surprised that in reaction to this latest event, we're seeing protests all across this nation in multiple cities, not like we've seen since the 1960s. The cry for years now has been, I can't breathe, and Black Lives Matter. And what happened in Minneapolis last week was simply the latest and most vivid example of it. So this is not an isolated occurrence, and it is not an isolated plea for help. It's not an isolated movement. And I believe we're going to see more peaceful protest until this underlying problem is addressed by national leadership in a serious way.